Hi, welcome to another review video. Today I shall be reviewing two of the most sought out soundbars in the market currently and the most affordable soundbar that is. If you are on the budget between 500 USD to 490 USD, then these two soundbars are meant for you. This is the Sony S700RF soundbar, 1000 watts. Then we have the JBL 5.1 surround with 550 watts. I know you're wondering why that big difference in the maximum power output, because this is 1000 watts and this is 550 watts, but the price range is the same. Yeah, actually they go for $500, both of them. Now let's get to have a closer look at both of them so that you see where the difference comes in and which one should you get if you're a music lover or you're a movie lover, because however similar they might seem to be, there's definitely a big difference in their performance when watching movies or listening to music. So let's have a closer look at them. So this is the JBL 5.1 surround. This is how it actually looks like. Very simple, no wiring, nothing, yet so powerful. I will do a sound test later. This is how the remote looks like. The remote is as simple as the soundbar looks like. Not too many configurations on the remote. We have just the HDMI input, TV, Bluetooth, bass, adjuster, volume knob, mute, power button, not so much. This is how the bar looks like. Remember it's 5.1 channel surround, so it means we have 5 drivers here, front firing speakers right here, and then there are 2 tweeters on the sides right here, and then on this other side we have another tweeter. Now that is how the bar looks like. Very simple. Then at the back we have just the labeling for the soundbar, nothing much. The bottom cover, we have those holes for the screws, and then you have these mounting slots right over here, one here, so that you can be able to mount it on the wall somewhere instead of placing it on a TV stand. And then right here we have the ports available on the bar. We have 2 HDMI ports. One of the HDMI is HDMI in, as you can see. Then we have HDMI out. Now this is the port that you normally use to connect this soundbar to your TV, so that you get the sound transferred from your TV to the soundbar. We have another HDMI in port here. These 2 ports support 4K videos and Dolby Atmos supported sounds. So whether the music you're listening to has that Dolby Atmos effect or the movie you're watching has that Dolby Atmos effect, then this HDMI is the best source to transfer that exact or the original sound quality from the TV to the soundbar. Then here we have Ethernet port. We have optical port for sound. If you're not a fan of HDMI, you can use the optical port right over here. And then you have USB port here. Remember this USB port, in some models of the JBL, they do function. You can insert a USB here and listen to music from the USB, but some of them, the USB port is only used for servicing the bar. Then this is the power button. No, this is the power jack to power on the bar. Remember, this is a wireless system. You power the bar on its own and then the subwoofer on its own. So this is the power for the bar. Then for the subwoofer, you see here, this is the power cable for the subwoofer. We have that orange light coming from there. Let me just turn it this side. You see something? Yeah, so this is the subwoofer pairing button. Use this button to pair the subwoofer. If it's disconnected from the bar, you press here to connect it. Currently it's orange because it's not connected, but once it's connected, it will blink white. Now that is how it is. Here we have a very big hole. Yeah, this is just a ventilation or a breather for the subwoofer. And I know you're wondering where the subwoofer is, where the driver is. Let me just put this down, show you something here, because it's somewhere right here. Yeah, there is. We have a 10-inch driver, very big subwoofer right over there. Then we have these rubbers here, just to improve the elevation of the subwoofer from the ground, because it's down firing. So as it plays or as it sounds, first it hits the floor, the sound hits the floor before it reaches you. So it means you get to have that deeper rumbling bass from this particular subwoofer. And remember, the cabinet is so big. The height of this cabinet is around half a meter, that is around 500 millimeters, so big. And then right on top for the width, it's somehow like a square, just with the soft or with the round edges right over there. So it's so big. And the weight of this particular, only the subwoofer alone, is 10.6 kilograms. So you can imagine how heavy this beast is. And then the bar is not that heavy. It's only around 2.6 or 2.7 kilograms. Not so heavy, but I think it's just heavy because of the drivers we have in it. And then we have a small motherboard right here. So it's a very premium built, well designed subwoofer. The soundbar, I actually love it. I don't know what's your point of view or from your side. And remember, these ventilation slots or these wire mesh we have over here, it has very thin small holes, as you can see. So what this helps with is that it prevents those pests like maybe cockroaches from entering the bar and probably destroying the motherboard, because most of these sound systems, they get destroyed easily by those pests we have in the house. And I think I must really congratulate JBL for having designed that bar in that manner, so it makes it so compact, and it's not easy. As for the Sony S700RF soundbar, this is how it looks like. We have those two elongated front firing speakers at a height of around close to 1 meter we have for this soundbar, see? So this JBL soundbar, the bar itself alone is 1 meter long. Now, if I place it side by side with this Sony soundbar, you see there's that small. These front firing speakers are a bit elongated, 1.2 meters. And then we have the bar right over here. The bar now is 1 meter. Subwoofer right over here. This is how the subwoofer looks like, you can see. Now, the only missing thing about this Sony S700RF is the wiring. Look at the back. You see, there are a lot of wires here. It's not wireless as compared to how the JBL is. So here, be ready to battle wires. And it's disadvantageous but advantageous at the same time, because these speakers, having them in wired as opposed to wireless form, means that you want to be having wireless charging, but having them in wired form, it means issues to do with batteries and charging, wearing out. Those are non-factors too. So these two speakers, they've been designed so that you can place them at position that is far away from the soundbar here and the subwoofer. So maybe close to your sitting position, so as to improve the surrounding or the music or the sound quality coming from the Sony soundbar. So it's a 5.1 channel, and we have the subwoofer, definitely that one. And then for the 5 channels, we have 3 speakers right here, 1 here, 2, 3, and then we have another 2 speakers on the front surround speaker, and then these second surround speaker. So there are a total of 5 speakers. Then here we have tweeters. As you can see, there's a tweeter inside there. This is the driver. Same here, we have tweeter and the driver. So that definitely improves the sound quality coming from this Sony S700RF soundbar. Now, both of them, we realized they have 2 tweeters. For the JBL soundbar, the tweeters are enclosed on the bar, but now for the Sony, the tweeters are on the surround tallboys. While on the soundbar, we only have the drivers. Now, another thing, the main other difference that is noticeable here is, for the Sony soundbar, the motherboard is enclosed on this subwoofer. You see, this is where we have the controls. We have the input. This is the touch surface. So we have the power button, input, Bluetooth, volume down, and volume up icon, USB port right here that is functional. You can be able to play music from this USB port over there. So here the motherboard is placed on the subwoofer, while on the JBL the motherboard is placed on the soundbar. So definitely it means we have a very small motherboard here, and that is so amazing. I really love the sound engineering on the JBL. And here, because you're not sure, you've not opened it, but I suspect the motherboard is bigger compared to what we have on the JBL, because this cabinet is quite big. Now, in terms of subwoofer size for the speakers, just before I show you a comparison of the subwoofer size, let me show you something here at the back. Connectivity of this Sony S700RF. It's pretty easy to connect the soundbar or the speakers to the subwoofer, because you just have to match the color codes we have over here. You see, if it's blue, insert it on the blue port. If it's green, green port. Yellow, yellow port. So it's pretty easy to do that. And then we have a cooling fan here, just to cool the heatsink of the motherboard of the Sony soundbar, something that is not present on that JBL soundbar. Now, as for the inputs, we have audio input. See here, we have the audio input right here, is small hole. Then we have HDMI ARC port for sound. We have optical port, and then we have this yellow pin that you see here. It's for, see, it's for the antenna FM in. Yeah. So nothing much, as you can see here on the surface. HDMI, Dolby Audio, DTS. This JBL soundbar lacks the DTS. It only has Dolby Audio but not DTS. There's something that is lacking on the JBL soundbar. Now what is that? What does that mean? I'll explain to you in the next few minutes. I must say that this subwoofer, it's quite big. The cabinet is quite big for the Sony S700RF, and I didn't expect it to be that big, but let's just do a side-by-side comparison with these. They're quite heavy. The weight is almost the same. Now, that is how they look like side by side. Now, in terms of height of the cabinet, you can see the height is close. It's almost the same height. Only that now, for the Sony subwoofer, they did place those legs for elongation, because I prefer having it this way. Maybe if you're in the house, you place the subwoofer on the floor, and maybe there's water leakage on the floor, then the JBL soundbar will have an advantage over the Sony soundbar, because this one will definitely get destroyed by water underneath it. You see, because these rubber elevations, these are not enough. So small, so thin, not enough. But for the JBL, I think the height is quite enough. Maybe it's because it's down firing, but again, it comes with an advantage. Now, back to the height. See, the height is just the same. Yeah, the difference is so small. Maybe if you remove the elongation of the stands for the JBL, it's so small. But now the difference comes range of both speakers. For Sony volume range, we have the maximum volume range we have over here is let me just adjust the volume to the maximum volume range. So you see that is, so the maximum volume is 50, yeah, while for JBL the maximum volume is let me just adjust it. JBL 5.1 maximum volume is, now that is 32. You know, that is quite confusing. You're wondering why this one is 50 and this one is 32. That should not be an issue to you at all while purchasing, because it all depends if you love having a soundbar, a sound system with a bigger sound range or volume range. That is something called volume range. Having it at 50 and at 32, if you have it at 50, it means that you'll have clarity in volume increase, because you'll be getting fine details at volume ranges. If you want to adjust the volume from 1 to 10, then from 1 to 10 you'll get to listen to different fine changes in volume as compared to what you have in the JBL, because the range has been a bit compressed, and it means if you just adjust a single volume just from 1 to 2, the increase in volume is much louder compared to what we have in the Sony, but generally they're the same. Now, having looked at that, maybe let's have a look at the remote for Sony configuration. See, for the remote on Sony remote, we have play button, we have the pause button, we have subwoofer adjustment button, definitely, and the subwoofer range. Maybe let me just place the battery there. The JBL is the remote. Yeah. So you see, for JBL, the subwoofer, we have the subwoofer adjustment icon on the remote, and let's just try to adjust the subwoofer level. See the maximum. You see, so we have maximum volume at 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maximum range for the subwoofer is 5. Then, well, for Sony, let me just have to change these batteries. Yeah, so for Sony, let me just see, subwoofer, the maximum range is 12. Yeah, so maximum is 12, and we have voice modes: cinema, music, standard, auto mode, night mode. See, so that is something I love about the Sony soundbar. You can be able to change the sound modes from voice mode is if you're watching a podcast, a documentary; cinema mode if you're watching a movie; music mode if you're listening to music; night mode; standard mode. While on the remote for JBL, there's no functionality for adjusting listening modes. You can't be able to adjust to music mode and the rest on this particular remote. Maybe if you find another remote that has those functionalities, or you use the JBL app. Remember, Sony also has Sony Music app that you can also use to adjust the sound or the surround volume of the surround speaker, the bar from the subwoofer. You can do that using the Sony Music Center application right on the Play Store. Well, for the JBL, you have the JBL One app. You can also use the app to adjust those functionalities, but that is a bit complex because you'll have to download the application. While here on the remote, it's easier. So I think in terms of remote design and simplicity, I love the functions we have on the Sony compared to the function we have on the JBL. Now, so much has been said about these two soundbars. Maybe just to add on something that most of you normally ask. This soundbar is 550 watts. Total output power is 550 watts. This one is 1000 watts. Why is that? So you see, for JBL, the subwoofer alone is 300 watts, and then the remaining wattage is spread on the bar. So that is 250 watts is spread on the bar, and then the subwoofer carries the higher or most of the power, or that is 300 watts. So it's so strong. That's why it produces deeper bass. While here for Sony, the sound distribution on the speakers is equally high, the output power. Now, because for the subwoofer it's 240 watts, and then the remaining power 240 minus 1000, so the remaining wattage is distributed to these three speakers. These are here the 5 speakers, surround speakers we have. Now this one, and then the 3 speakers we have over there. So cumulatively, or the RMS, the total maximum power for the Sony soundbar will be 1000 watts. So it doesn't mean having it at 1000 watts it's much powerful to JBL that has 550 watts, because in terms of bass quality, you see here we have 240 watts only, but there is 300 watts. And it's not about the wattage again, because the subwoofer we have over there is 10 inches. It's bigger compared to the 8-inch subwoofer we have over here. The cabinet is also quite big compared to the cabinet we have for the Sony S700RF. So expect the JBL subwoofer soundbar to produce deeper bass and much that rumbling bass compared to the bass from Sony. Now, where Sony performs the JBL soundbar now is now these other 5 remaining speakers, because they have higher output power compared to the 250 watts we have on the bar. So it means this one will be much louder compared to the JBL soundbar. Actually, if you place both of them in a bigger room, then the Sony soundbar will outperform the JBL soundbar, because the surround speakers will have a higher strength compared to the JBL soundbar. But now you'll have it being louder with low bass. That's the only disadvantage we have on this Sony soundbar. It doesn't mean that the bass quality is not good. It's good, but compared to the JBL so much outperforms this Sony. On a scale of 10, I'll give JBL in terms of bass 10 out of 10, while I'll give this Sony 6.5 in terms of bass. So you can imagine how good the sound quality is. And then the price tag is the same. So if you're in the market, maybe to get a Sony or JBL soundbar, if you're a music lover and you love high bass, thrilling bass, then definitely go for JBL. If you're a movie lover, you want that DTS surround Dolby Atmos environment you get in movies, whereby sound is traveling from one channel to the other, then definitely having Sony soundbar is a good option for you. You won't get disappointed with the Sony soundbar. Now, so much has been said between this Sony S700RF soundbar and the JBL 5.1 surround soundbar. We've talked so much about it. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these two soundbars. And if you feel there's anything else I've missed out, let me also know. I'm not going to do a sound test on these two soundbars. I don't feel it's actually worth it, because you won't be able to notice that difference. But from what we've talked about, the physical aspects, the difference in the driver, the difference in the subwoofer size, the soundbar size, the tolerances we have on the Sony S700RF, there are very big differences that you can be able to see clearly. And I've done my own tests. Maybe you have to trust me on this. But if you're looking for something that has deeper bass, then with JBL you won't go wrong. But if you want something that has proper surround, that nice surround atmosphere for listening to music or watching a movie in a bigger room,